This week I ended up focusing more on creating new elements of scenery to make the game better each time, because that way, like every good role-playing game, you go through various locations during the journey, and each location refers to a different environment, such as deserts, snow, grasslands, forests, caves, and for this, it is necessary to create various types of different environments to provide this sense of immersion for the player. What previously had only grass scenes, now I can create much more complex and different environments. For example, there is now a desert scene that will have great importance in the game, for something I will explain later. I also created some types of wooden structures to create things like towers, bridges, interiors, and even some houses that can indeed give an even better sense of civilization within the game. I also created some rocky environments. Rocks that can be mixed with other environments like grassy ones, to give a much better feeling and an idea that all that there is indeed a naturally different environment from a large field that would be used in a game without this idea of being an environment itself. Since much of the week was focused on creating these environments, I couldn't create that many mechanics, but I still managed to create some new things that can indeed be quite useful and interesting to have in a game. I want to thank everyone who is following the game's development and sending comments. It really helps me a lot to continue making this game, and there are even several comments that give me great game tips so that I can see, and great tips on things I can include in the game. This helps me a lot, so thank you to everyone. One of the mechanics I really liked in Final Fantasy Tactics was a specific mechanic that it was a little hidden, but it was easily discovered. This was the possibility that with some ranged weapon like a bow, you could climb to a place much higher than the zoom. This gives you that feeling that you always have a sniper position and are always looking for the highest point, so you can defeat all your enemies from that same spot. This gives you an absurd advantage and also gives you the idea that you look for a different strategy for each map, and you can indeed create something new and defeat more powerful enemies without even being affected, since a well-equipped simple archer and a great position can defeat enemies very strong even before they reach the archer. To conduct some tests, I built here a simple tower with the new wooden tiles that wasn't that good, so any other tower I place in the game will definitely be much better than this one. But for testing it worked well. By placing the archer high up on the tower, you can see that the range is extremely increased and I can defeat all the enemies before they even reach me. Some new abilities were also added, such as healing abilities and buff skills for the two initial classes, something added just to complement the classes already presented, but which is quite important. Additionally, some elements of grid movement where the enemies often skip turns without having anything to do. This because they sometimes focused on some enemies they couldn't reach, either because they didn't have enough height or because the simple grid movement I had created didn't reach that enemy. This was a problem, but now it has been fixed and they can even focus on other enemies when they can't reach that one. It may seem like a small thing, but this made battles quite trivial, since if you positioned yourself in a spot where the enemy couldn't reach, it would simply keep skipping its turn and you could kill it without even taking damage. This type of problem occurs simply because it is very difficult to check all possible positions, all possible situations for this to happen in a game. Even if you create everything in a way that is very simple and easy to modify and change, sometimes you simply didn't test that situation because it's something you didn't think of at the time. This was one of them, but it happened during some tests and I was able to change it. An important graphic element which was also added was the fact of having a silhouette that follows the character and is shown when passing behind objects like walls, trees, and other things. The fact that the game is in a way a fake three-dimensional, that is, every graphic element is a two-dimensional, so you can't rotate the camera as in a traditional three-dimensional element, which would make it very difficult to identify enemies and identify some characters behind some walls and objects. Even when it was necessary for you to go behind them, you wouldn't know exactly their position, which can be a bit inconvenient for the player. This way, simply and automatically, you can indeed identify both yourself and your enemies behind objects. Another element I just mentioned were the trees. These trees function as obstacles, which will also be used to place other obstacles in the game, like stones or something similar, that work in two ways. Obstacles themselves can work during your exploration, preventing you from passing through there or causing you not to follow a straight path, as well as creating an environment much richer with rocks, trees, plants, and things that would be there in the conventional nature. And the second form is within combat. If you start a combat where there is a tree or an obstacle, they must function within combat so that you can maneuver around them. The enemies can maneuver around them, and you can even use these obstacles as a form of strategy, since staying behind obstacles, for example, forces the enemies to maneuver around them to reach you, and with enemies that do not have many movement points, can give you some extra turns to attack them if you have a ranged weapon or a ranged skill. It can also be used to escape and even heal yourself before the enemy reaches you, since passing through some of these obstacles will also make these enemies need to navigate around them. Adding this to other elements, being near an obstacle reduces at least one position where the enemy could be to attack you. All of this was added and polished so that it works perfectly. Some bugs occurred during this edition, but that always happens, and the important thing is to continually fix these bugs and polish the game so that none of this accumulates and the game becomes increasingly fluid. Some weeks like this one, where I had reduced time to be able to have so many new things, but I will always be trying to keep you updated and show, even if it is not much, something new that is being implemented in the game. I also intend to create ways for you to follow the development in the near future, like a Discord or something, which would be even more practical for you to give me situations and opinions, and participate in the creation of this game, since I saw that many people like this style of game just like I do. This would be very good for me and very good for the players too. It hasn't been created yet, but in the near future you can be sure it will be, and I want to interact more and more with you to have or deliver the best game possible, and also show everything that I enjoy in this type of game, like a good story, good mechanics, good classes, and everything that makes this type of game so magical and so good. Who is here has probably already seen the last two videos, but if you haven't seen them yet, I hope you follow them and see all the growth from the start. I am putting here all the updates I add to this game since the beginning of its creation. It's very cool for you to follow this kind of thing. It helps me a lot and motivates me greatly. I hope you are enjoying following all these videos and are keeping up with the whole process of this game. I hope to come back with new things next time. Don't forget to like and share this video. Comment below, the comments help me a lot. And goodbye.